Welcome. You're listening to Ask the Doulas, a podcast where we talk to experts from all over the country about topics related to pregnancy, birth, postpartum, and early parenting. Let's chat.
Hello. This is Kristin with Ask the Doulas, and I am thrilled to chat with my friend Lindsay DeOliveira. And Lindsay is the CEO and founder of Soothe Beginnings, and we actually met at the Sweet Sleep Academy retreat in North Carolina. So it's great to reconnect. Lindsay is the leading pacifier innovator in this new movement. She's the founder of Soothe Beginnings, which is reshaping infant care with a focus on safety and evidence-based design. Fresh off a TV show win for entrepreneurs, Lindsay's a trailblazer for better, safer, soothing solutions for babies. Welcome, Lindsay.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to chat with you again.
Yes, and I was so impressed by your conference and really wanted to learn more. And when I say that you're leading the movement, you honestly are. Like, you as a mom and entrepreneur have solved so many problems with pacifiers that our clients face, not only with feeding issues, but also our sleep consultants at Gold Coast Doulas and what our postpartum doulas are seeing in the home. So I am thrilled to talk about pacifier safety and the innovative ideas that you have with this launch of Soothe Beginnings.
Thank you so much. It's been such a whirlwind of, I thought when my daughter was born, we very, very quickly discovered she was a colicky baby with reflux. And I myself was suffering from postpartum depression. We were so struggling to find a pacifier, and we really, for mental health, but for my child's discomfort, we really needed to find any way and every way possible to soothe her. And nobody was sleeping. You can't live like that. It's not healthy for development. It's not healthy for mental health. So we were really desperate. So going through trying to find pacifier, we went through so many pacifiers. It was an expensive, wasteful, frustrating process of trying to find one that she would take. And I was so overwhelmed by what was on the market that I was like, there just has to be an easier way to do this. That was my initial thought in creating this modern pacifier, being easier for parents. But going through the entire process of working with safety consultants, going through the safety regulations in our country for pacifiers, I really uncovered the true issue in the lack of safety consideration for pacifiers and how inadequate the safety guidelines actually are and how unaware parents are, myself included, of what we're actually purchasing and putting in our baby's mouth.
Yes. And, I felt like I was up to date as a baby registry consultant and, doula working in homes that on safety issues, but I learned so much from you. And it's not just, the amount of time that, how to properly clean a pacifier, the length of time that you need to replace the pacifier and so on. But there's so many issues, obviously, in the safety area, especially with the trendy gadgets attached to the pacifiers lately. And that is so unsafe.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So I was that mom that was like, okay, safe sleep, and was so into making sure my child was safe above all, that it did not click to me that the pacifiers with stuffed animals attached are not safe for sleep. You think, okay, I'm purchasing this. It's a pacifier. It's meant for sleep. It's like, I didn't think twice. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's a stuffed animal. These are actually a suffocation hazard. And if that isn't actually bad enough, the weight of this, and this is what I learned after the fact, the weight of the stuffed animal, oh my gosh, it pulls down on that pacifier so heavily that it's really affecting oral development.
Exactly. Yes. So many concerns beyond even
Yes.
safe sleep, or even for parents who are driving in their car and
Yeah.
their infant has that pacifier. And then all of a sudden,
Hmm.
there's an issue with breathing. And yeah, so it's not just with sleep, but
Yes.
certainly, constant supervision if those are a choice for parents.
One of the scary things, and I do see a lot of this on social media, and I very much come from an angle of meeting parents where they're at. Every baby has different needs, and to not judge what other parents feel like they need to do for their child. And education is power. It truly is. Because we're all doing our very best with the knowledge we have. And that's the place I come from. I'm not sitting here saying, oh, if you're using this pacifier, you're a terrible parent. Absolutely not. There are so many factors that go into it. And if you're unaware, you're just unaware, right?
Exactly.
And one of the things I see a lot of is, oh, well, baby is being supervised. It could be an unsafe activity I see on social media. And they're like, well, mom's watching them, dad's watching them. Suffocation is a silent problem. And that is scary.
Very scary.
Yeah. Especially exactly to your point, if you're driving your car, you're not gonna hear your child suffocating in the backseat. You don't know that they're asleep versus something more serious going on. I hate to talk so not morbidly, but it is a scary situation. Our child's safety is such a big deal. And with unsafe products, I mean, come on, you know that parents are using these pacifiers for sleep. So why is this available on the market?
Yeah, a gadget, it's trendy, and
Hmm.
they think that it will be a distraction potentially for the baby or toddler. So, yes. And then
Yeah,
there are just so many reasons, but I feel like pacifiers get a bad rap for one thing,
mm,
especially in the
they do.
breastfeeding community. So,
Yes.
what are some of the positives that you see with pacifier use outside of extending feeding time, getting more rest, and keeping baby happy, say in public,
Yeah.
for example, if you're shopping, you can put a pacifier in.
Yeah. So a lot of parents turn to pacifiers for, oh my gosh, I just need sleep and peace of mind and the crying to stop, right? Pacifiers, absolutely incredible. And I think we're just at the tip of the iceberg on the science behind them, honestly.
Yeah,
Pacifiers, there is, now we don't know the causation, but there is a correlation between, in multiple studies, pacifiers have a correlation in the reduction of the risk of sudden infant death syndrome.
right.
Now, the SIDS Institute and the AAP, they both recommend the use of pacifiers. So that in itself was one of my ding, ding, ding. I would like to give my child a pacifier. And so many parents either feel like guilty parents giving their child a pacifier, or like they feel like a lazy parent or something of that nature. And so many parents are sitting here saying, well, I don't want to have to deal with pacifier weaning. So I understand where it's coming from and going through eating. They don't want what they've heard of as nipple confusion. So there are a lot of those elements, but
Right.
they really have so much power and benefit. So babies start practicing sucking in the womb before they're even born. Babies are born to suck. And the practice of it's called non-nutritive suck. They're sucking a non-food source. Aside from
Right.
the SIDS risk reduction, that helps them feed more efficiently. It's that breathe, suck, swallow coordination that as they practice that, it's actually training them how to feed properly and efficiently, and also working those muscles that they need to use for feeding in a proper way, building those up. NICU babies, I don't know if you know this. I would imagine you do. To me, this was mind-blowing. NICU babies are given pacifiers and they get out of the hospital faster because
Yeah.
of that. It helps their digestion, it helps their efficiency in feeding. They can go to feeding sooner. It has so many health benefits, especially for these NICU babies and their weight
Yes.
gain and going home faster. It's absolutely incredible to see that.
I experienced that as a first time mom before I was a doula. And my daughter
Oh,
was in the NICU for only 4 days, but for glucose issues. And
okay.
I was resisting the pacifier. And of
Mm.
course, had to pump and then eventually, supplement and IV fluids, all of the things
Oh, you
were
went through it
going
all.
on. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I was trying to resist the pacifier, but it was necessary. The nurses explained all of the benefits, but everything
Yeah.
that I read and learned was like, if you
Yeah.
want to breastfeed and, family members telling me you need to make breastfeeding work and all of the
Right.
things. But I did
Right.
learn that and then learned even more later as a doula. But it is something that many people aren't aware of.
Yes, it's incredible. There are some doctors, and there is not. I don't think enough studies on this in particular have been done, and I don't know if they can truly because of what the control would look like. But there are doctors that say using pacifiers helps with the brain development and brain organization because these are exponentially important times for brain development, right? In
Right.
those early months. Like it's incredible how much brain development goes on. Think about a baby's stress level. If they have those high cortisol levels, especially for extended periods of time, think about what that's doing to their brain development.
Hey, Alyssa here. I'm just popping in to tell you about our course called Becoming. Becoming a Mother is your guide to a confident pregnancy and birth, all in a convenient 6-week online program. From birth plans to sleep training and everything in between, you'll gain the confidence and skills you need for a smooth transition to motherhood. You'll get live coaching calls with Kristin and myself, a bunch of expert videos, including chiropractic care, pelvic floor physical therapy, mental health experts, breastfeeding, and much more. You'll also get a private Facebook community with other mothers going through this at the same time as you to offer support and encouragement when you need it most. And then, of course, you'll also have direct email access to me and Kristin, in addition to the live coaching calls. If you'd like to learn more about the course, you can email us at info@goldcoastdoulas.com or check it out at thebecomingcourse.com. We'd love to see you there.
Yeah, it would definitely help to have the sucking and then again, anything to help that transition
Yeah.
and reduce cortisol levels and stress for baby.
Yeah. They did some really interesting studies. They found the use of pacifiers helps with pain relief for babies. So if you need to go have like a procedure done or like an emergency procedure or anything like that, the ERs and the doctors, they recommend giving your child a pacifier for pain relief.
And that makes sense. So for breastfeeding moms, certainly after immunizations, for example, you can feed your baby, or if not, use a pacifier. So it makes sense that would be recommended for other things outside of just the typical shots baby needs.
Yeah. Yeah, it's absolutely incredible the help that they are.
Yeah.
Not every baby takes a pacifier, but
Right.
and that was one of the things I discovered is you go to Target, for example, not a single nipple there is the true breastfeeding latch nipple. So yes, a breastfeeding mom is going to struggle harder to find a pacifier with the proper latch. So, and not every baby takes a pacifier to begin with, even if they're a bottle-fed baby. My niece was like that. She was a bottle-fed baby, never took a single pacifier. Whereas my daughter was the pacifier hog. And
Right.
those were her BFFs. So it's so interesting how every baby is going to be unique. Every baby is different with their own preferences and what works for them. And that is more than okay.
Exactly. So, how is Soothe Beginnings different than other pacifiers on the market? You mentioned the shape of the pacifier, the nipple shape, and so on.
Yeah. So, pacifiers haven't really been reinvented in a hot minute, right? And
Right.
I went again, like I said, I went from the angle of, hey, let's make this easier on parents. So you get a pacifier starter kit from Soothe Beginnings with a cap and shield, and it comes with 3 interchangeable nipples. Each one is evidence-based. You have the proper latch for a breastfeeding baby, and then you have the 2 other nipples are the top rated nipples backed by research and science for quality non-nutritive suck. So one is that more cylindrical shape, one is that more orthodontic, kind of flatter with a a little bit more bulbous towards the end. And that third one for nursing is a much wider, looks a little bit more anatomically correct. The nipples themselves are food grade silicone. You really want to stay away from latex pacifiers. And I know those are on the rise. They're being marketed as natural rubber and eco-friendly, but eco-friendly can be done without an allergen. Latex is one of those allergens that obviously can cause anaphylactic shock, but the more you're exposed to it, it actually increases the likelihood to become allergic or sensitive to it.
Yes. And I knew obviously it was one of the higher sensitivities, but until I saw your presentation, I didn't know that it could create future sensitivities by that early exposure.
It's wild. And, you think about your brand new baby, we're nervous to give them peanut butter and, a brand new baby, newborn baby, their immune system isn't fully developed yet. Right. And the implications of that are wild. There was a study done in Denmark that they actually specifically studied the pacifiers, the latex pacifiers, and they found the correlation between the allergy in babies that use the pacifier. But anyways, so food grade silicone nipples, evidence-based shapes. Now the cap and shield, this is where things get interesting. Totally everything is eco-friendly, non-toxic food grade. The cap and shield are recycled paper with a plant-based resin.
I love it so much. As a B Corp business, everything you're doing is spot on.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, I love all the eco-friendly aspects.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's what parents want. And it's engravable, so you can totally customize your baby's pacifier. But every aspect is dishwasher safe.
Saves time. And our doulas, we talk about sanitizing all of the things for babies. And that is one of the biggest pains, is trying to clean out pacifiers, educate families on when you need to replace them. And some pacifiers that babies or toddlers love are hard to find, and they won't take just any replacement. So
and that was the thing. I remember being a new mom, you're sleep deprived. You don't need something else added to your plate. So we're automating nipple subscription. That way you don't have to think about it. The nipple replacements just arrive and you can swap them out. So it's just one more thing to make it easy to keep your child healthy and safe. And silicone is recyclable, which is a very cool thing to find out. I was like, I was like, okay, we're doing this eco-friendly, non-toxic, plastic-free. So many parents are moving away now. More evidence is coming out to move away from plastic. So we're offering that plastic-free, ease of use. And as a mom, this is where finding out the safety standards set out by the CPSC were inadequate. I felt the need as a parent first to go above and beyond the existing standards. So whether it's assembled or not, no piece poses a choking hazard. And you'll see, if you look at the product, you see how much larger, the cap is, the nipple is. That way no piece is a choking hazard, and adding a vent hole to the cap so you can't suction it to your face. And we are doing, every single batch is being made in the United States.
Amazing.
Yes. So we don't have to worry about material swaps that can happen overseas.
Right.
Because that happens with quality. Every single batch is being tested.
What a relief for parents. You've really thought of everything.
I tried. I look at my daughter running around and, she's been part of this process, going through the warehouse with me, and she's in her stroller. And that has been the biggest reminder of, this is why I'm doing this. This is what I wish I could have given my child. This is what I wish I felt safe enough to have. And, I only wish somebody took the safety stance sooner, in that every batch needs to be tested. I mean, these pacifiers are going in your child's mouth for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours a day. We need to make sure they're non-toxic.
Right. Absolutely. Well, it's all about education, and
Mhm.
certainly all of your, promotions that you're doing and being on a TV show and getting the
Mm,
word out. I mean, and with your launch, I mean, more and more families will be educated on not only pacifier safety,
right.
but also about the different options and
Yeah.
yeah, the
Yeah.
fact
I
that
mean,
plastics and yeah, so
yeah.
many things are unsafe.
One of the interesting things parents can do, whether it's pacifier safety, toy safety, you name it, you can go to saferproducts.gov and you can look up any product and you can see what incidents have been reported. And this is also part of the awareness I'm trying to raise. If you have an issue with a product, so if you have a issue, a pacifier comes apart, it now got lodged in your child's throat, obviously, first and foremost, that's a shock and trauma and scary. You need to make sure your kid's okay. And that's a lot to
Right.
process for a parent. If at some point you can think of it, please report on saferproducts.gov. That is what the CPSC is looking at for incidents. That is
Excellent.
where, yeah, that's where regulations are getting set from, is causing enough noise on saferproducts.gov.
So it's not just complaining to the
Facebook.
company or,
Yeah,
yeah, bad negative Facebook reviews, whatever it might
right.
be, Google reviews, but actually going to the source so change can
Yeah,
be made.
exactly.
Excellent.
Exactly. Yeah, that website is very eye-opening. Man, you can do such a deep dive on that site. But that's where we want to report things. That's where the CPSC is looking.
And when should families replace a pacifier if they're not using your amazing subscription service where they automatically get replaced?
Yeah. So you do want to replace pacifier nipples or pacifiers every 4 to 6 weeks. And you want to do that for safety and for hygiene reasons, because bacteria can build up, depending on the type of pacifier you have. If it's one of those that closed ones, you can't clean them out. I was replacing those on a weekly basis because water, spit was getting in, like it became very unsanitary very quickly.
Yes.
You also want to be looking out if your child has teeth, you want to be making sure if they start biting into it or anything like that, you got to replace that immediately. So before you give your child their pacifier, inspect it for damage, inspect it for anything unsanitary, but make sure you're replacing them every 4 to 6 weeks to keep it that way.
And then how long do your subscriptions run for our listeners who plan to sign up with you? Do they cut off at a certain point, or is it whenever babies wean from the pacifier? I should say toddlers wean from the pacifier.
Every child's going to be different. So the subscription is going to be on a monthly basis.
Okay.
And at any point you can cut it, because some babies are off the pacifier by 6 months old. Every situation is going to look different. So you just end it when you need to. One of the things we are looking to do within this next year. So part of this whole interchangeability idea and keeping it easier for parents, the pacifier system is what's rolling out first. Eventually, we're going to be launching teething nipples and weaning nipples. So you can easily and safely deal with the stress of, your baby's now teething and they're needing to gnaw on something.
And hopefully
also,
not your breast if you're still breastfeeding, because I remember those days. It was horrible.
oh, it sounds terrible. And, safely and gently getting your child off the pacifier without cutting the pacifier, which is a safety hazard, things of that
Yes.
nature. So the line itself will be expanding to cover these pain points in a safe way.
And I love the weaning option as well. So,
Oh, I wish I had that.
yeah, it can be a pain, especially for, the kids who really love the pacifier, and it becomes
Mhm.
a sense of security for them. The weaning
Yeah.
can be pretty traumatic for parents to go through.
Oh, yes. Yep. I think the night we took away my daughter's pacifier, yeah, I had to have like a drink because I was like, oh gosh.
Right. Yeah, it's almost like some of the, sleep shaping and, going through a sleep plan and, managing the changes on a baby or a toddler and going through weaning, whether it's breastfeeding or nipple weaning from a pacifier will definitely, cause a little bit of stress on the parents who just want their baby or toddler to be happy.
I know. And I love this synergy between, and what I've realized being in the baby space, so many things are interconnected. And I thoroughly believe in a holistic approach to anything you're doing with your baby. Because if we're starting to work on getting rid of our child's pacifier, well, you know what? You need to make sure that bedtime routine is solid. And you need to make sure that your sleep habits are in place and what your child's bedtime cues are, things of that nature. It's so interconnected. So I put together a guide that your fabulous sleep consultants were super helpful with and giving input. And it was very cohesive of putting together a weaning guide off the pacifier for parents, but also how it relates to sleep and bedtime, but knowing that the additional support is there from your team should parents need it, because it's something I wish I had done was bring on a sleep consultant like you guys who have that incredible holistic approach, because it would have made the process a lot less stressful.
Exactly. And certainly we love your guide. It will be available in our blog when the episode is released. So our listeners and doula clients will be able to have access to all of that amazing information.
I love that. Yeah, I love spreading the information and awareness. And again, knowledge is power, and then applying it to how your family and your child's needs need it it's incredible.
Absolutely. So what other tips do you have for our listeners, Lindsay?
My tips truly, as a parent, give yourself grace. Nobody is a perfect parent. We are all doing our best, and we're all doing what we need to do. And as much as you can, educate yourself on safety above all. So whether, you're looking at toys for your child, you're trying to figure out sleep for your child, you're trying to figure out pacifier for your child, definitely see what you can find on safety, because that's going to help you know what choices are the right choice.
Absolutely. And how can our listeners connect with you personally or with Soothe Beginnings?
Yeah, so you can go to soothebeginnings.co. That's our website. I am all over the TikTok, Instagram, Facebook at Soothe Beginnings. And my TikTok, I have a lot of fun in bringing education there, and really, when something comes to me, I'm right there with the camera, ready to spread the word.
I love it. You are amazing. And how can our listeners order from you other than going to the website? Do you have a retail plan?
Yes. So super exciting. Our pacifiers will be available on Amazon. And now the personalizable ones will not be on Amazon. And the thought behind that is, if you're like me, crying at 2:00 in the morning, you need a pacifier that works and you need it delivered tomorrow, you're not worried about it getting personalized.
Exactly.
So through Amazon, you can nab these. We are featured on villi.com and through our website as well.
That's so exciting. And yes, the convenience of Amazon, especially for those who have the Prime shipping, they can get it quickly and then customize later. Because yes, those late night orders, I find that for our doula and sleep consulting inquiries, they often come at about like 2 a.m., 4 a.m., middle of the night.
Help. Yeah.
Yes, I'm sleep
like the bat signal going up. Yeah.
That is so exciting. I can't wait to follow your progress. Thank you so much for educating us and for solving problems as a mom. We get things done. So
we do. We certainly do. We dive in hardcore, and go for all the education, training, and change we can get our hands on.
Exactly. Well, thank you, Lindsay. We will keep talking with you as you're coming up. We'll have to, when the weaning pacifiers are introduced, we can do another episode.
I would love that. That would be fantastic.
Well, thank you, and we will talk soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Ask the Doulas. For more information about Gold Coast Doulas, visit us on our website, goldcoastdoulas.com. We're also on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. If you like this podcast, please subscribe and give us a 5-star review. Thank you. Remember, these moments are golden.